How's it going? If you're here, that means that you are interested in making a Miata finish panel that's flush and looks way better than the stock one, depending on the application. Yeah, so this video I'm just gonna be going over literally everything that I did to get this from the computer into real life, painted and looking good. So yeah, the first step basically is just to start on the computer and take a look in the description. There's gonna be everything that you could possibly need to finish this project, and hopefully you have a lot of the stuff. If you don't, then take a look. All right, let's head to the computer and let's start the process. All right, guys, this is the 3D model that I came up with for the finished panel. This is just the entire 3D model. And yeah, this was all done from scratch, just with some photos and a little bit of time and a few test prints to make sure that stuff was lining up. But I will provide this entire one if you want to do something with it, as well as the split version with the connectors and everything. So this is what we'll be 3D printing. Just print each one of these at a time, and I believe in you guys. You can figure out what orientation works best with supports and all of that. Not too difficult. Yeah, and then come back once you've printed all 6 of these parts. Alright, once they all come off of the 3D printer, this is what you're going to be left with. 6 pieces that all make up the finished panel, and they all have these little interlocking tabs on them as well, so when you stick them together, it makes them just a little bit easier to line them up. It's not perfect, it doesn't snap them together, but it gives you something to press against while you're super gluing it, so you'll get a little bit better alignment. Perfect alignment is not exactly crucial, but it will save you some time in your next phase. They just all go together like this, and I'll show you the glue up process after I hit these with a quick sand. Alright, so I cut a little strip off of this paper, sheet of sandpaper. It's 150 grit, and that should be plenty. This isn't anything crazy, just a light little sand to get some of the really gross parts off. And this is all printed in PETG, which I would very highly recommend to also do. If you print this in PLA, you will run the risk of the finished panel melting in the sun, or warping, not necessarily melting, but it might start to lose its shape, and if it's losing its shape, then it's going to start cracking the primer and the paint and all that stuff. So I would recommend PETG. This is going to work out good. It's very easy to print, just as easy as PLA is. So yeah. Alright, I'm going to go through and sand all of these joints real quick before I start the gluing process. Another quick note about PETG, it is way easier to sand than PLA is, primarily because it doesn't gum your sandpaper up like PLA does. So that's another reason to use PETG. If you're printing these pieces in the same orientation that I did, which was upright like this on a raft of support, you're going to have these pretty gnarly layer lines throughout the sides, which you won't see when the finished panel is done, but it will create a nasty little line down here. So in the video description, I'll include the project files of each piece without these connectors, so you can actually print them pretty much face up so that you don't get those crazy layer lines. Also, an option is, if you really wanted to, you can print them in this orientation like that. You're just going to use a lot more support waste, so that's why I opted to print like this. These joints don't have to be perfect for the super glue, because we are going to be connecting these in a mechanical way with a soldering iron. So if they're gross like mine are, it really doesn't matter. As long as it can fit together relatively nicely, you're going to be loving life. Alright, now that we have all these guys with very, very rough sand. They're ready to go together. This is the super glue that I'm using. It is just from Amazon, and I'll put the link in the description. This stuff works great. You really just only want traditional cyanoacrylate glue because otherwise it's going to take forever to dry, and I found that the Gorilla Glue stuff is not like real super glue and it doesn't dry as fast. Maybe I've been using the wrong stuff, but yeah. The glue up process is very straightforward. We're just gonna start, I usually start from this side here, and you just go one at a time basically. A very useful thing to have right now are these are like $1 each, but these mini spring clamps make it super, super nice to line everything up and to make sure that you're not going to mess up your alignment, and to allow it to cure without having to hold it for however long you need to hold it for. Yeah, I'm just going to glue it up, and I'll show you that process now. Okay, stick these spring clamps on. It's probably smart to take the little rubber things off because sometimes they get stuck to the super glue and it will rip them off. But as you put the spring clamps on, you can see how they're putting pressure on it and allowing this piece to be nice and tight. There we go, there's our first joint. Looks like it's a little bit down, so I can try to move it up. Yeah, looks pretty good to me. There's that first joint. Very, very simple process, and this is honestly just to keep these pieces together for when you go in with the soldering iron and tack them together. But yeah, very, very easy, simple process. Now we're going to begin the next part of the adventure, which is using a soldering iron that I'm heating up now to basically weld all of these together so that we make sure that it does not come apart. Because the last thing that we want is one of these pieces cracking down the middle and ruining our nice, beautiful bodywork and paint job that we're about to spend a whole lot of time on. So this is a very important part. I would not just trust the super glue, although the super glue will hold very strong. This is more about making sure that each little part is, because sometimes with the super glue, little parts won't fully bond together and that'll cause a crack later down the road. So also, before I go in with the soldering iron, I'm going to go in along the front of each one of these joints, and I'm going to lay down super glue down the entire front of it just so I can be sure that this is one solid piece. Alright, now I've left a little bit of time for all this glue to dry. Okay, and it's all over my mat. Pro tip, don't do this on anything you care about because it will stick to it. That is quite unfortunate. Good thing this mat was cheap. Oh, man. Alright. Now we're just going to go in with the soldering iron set at like 250-ish so we don't completely destroy the PTG. And then you're basically just going to come in here and just kind of make a little swipe, and it'll kind of stitch together. And in this model, there are these little flanges that I've put in, which are perfect for having an area to do your welds. Well, your melts, I guess. Don't be afraid to get really in there. These are just some extra reinforcement. We can go in here also in this edge. Alright, now we're at the Miata. As you can see, I already have my finish panel off. It's not hard to take off. It's a couple 10 mils and some tabs. So just look up a YouTube tutorial if you can't figure it out. In order to put this finish panel on, you are going to have to take your taillights off. Again, very easy, just a couple 10 mils. Alright, once we got our taillights off, slip this bad boy in. And there you go, there's your finish panel on the car. The fitment should be, as long as it's all printed the same as I did, it should be exactly the same. Sorry, let me take this off the tripod. So as long as you printed everything exactly the same way that I did, which you should have, because everything's there in the files, should fit pretty perfect. That's not exactly perfect. There's slight panel gap differences, but you know, I only have so much time, so I got it as good as I could. And yeah, a lot of that stuff can be fixed with body work, so it's really not that big of a deal. And the keyhole does line up perfectly, so you can still use your keyhole. Everything's flattened up there, fits around the taillights pretty nicely. Feel free to modify the files if you want. It's just a Blender file, but yeah, this is about as good as I could get it to fit with the amount of time that I had. And yeah, so now that we've test fit it and made sure it's all good, we can be sure that the time we put into bodyworking is worthwhile. So I'll go over the quick rundown of the bodyworking and how I'm gonna do it. Quick side note before bodyworking, the way that I set the file up is a little different than stock for the mounting. So this mounting tab right here does not have a stud, but instead is just a hole. So you're gonna have to slip your finger in here to fit an M6 bolt in. It's really hard to get a view, but there is a hole that lines up with this hole right there. So just stick an M6 nut and bolt through there, and that will keep this secured on. There is no way to secure it in the middle, which is unfortunate, but it'll be held in by the taillights, so it should be completely fine. All right, now is the time where we're gonna hit this with an aggressive sand on the DA. This is like 120 maybe, something like that. So we're just gonna go ahead and flatten down all of the really bad spots, just in preparation for some body filler and some filler primer. Well, a whole lot of body filler and a whole lot of filler primer, I should say. Alright, after this rough sand, now that we got it feeling relatively smooth to the touch, we can go ahead and put our first coat of Bondo on here. It's not really worth our time to start with a coat of filler primer because it's in a very rough state right now. So I'd recommend just starting with a coat of Bondo and working from there. Now all you're going to do is simply Bondo the seams and any really bad spots. Oh, huge fail. Put way too much hardener in it. Oh, battery recharge. Time to work on this hunk of junk in the meantime. Oh man, this sucks. Alright, now it's at a stage where I feel semi-confident in spraying it with some filler primer and starting to actually knock this out. All of these seams are pretty much gone to the touch. Some high spots and some low spots, of course, but oh, except for that. I gotta hit that, and then I'm gonna spray it. Beloved. Alright, I've spent the last couple days getting this body work pretty much perfect. And yeah, it's at a point where everything is smooth enough that it's ready to get painted. So once you get to this step, it's basically whatever you want to do to paint it. My car is actually this Rust-Oleum rattle can color, so what I'm going to do is rattle can it the paint match color, and then I'm going to head over to my buddies, and then we're going to clear coat it with an actual paint gun, because that's the part that actually matters. If you don't have an actual paint gun, then I'd recommend using the Spray Max 2K Clear. Hold on, I have a bottle. Alright, here is the bottle. This is the stuff I would recommend. If you're going to clear coat anything in your car, do not use Rust-Oleum Clear. Please use this stuff. It is a little more expensive, but it is 100% worth it. It's got a little red cap and a thing on the bottom. So it's an actual 2-part clear. But yeah, if you don't have access to clear coat and a real paint gun, this is the next best thing. But yeah, soon I'll be over there prepping this and getting it ready to paint, and then we'll clear coat it, and I'll put it on the car and I'll show you guys the final result.
See, that's shadowing. That, I don't know if you'll really get rid of. But head on, it'll look good.
Shine it again. You can't tell on a camera, it doesn't matter. I just got it back from Luke's and he was nice enough to wet sand it and buff it for me because it actually turned out pretty bad, but after wet sanding and polishing, it's pretty good. Well, it's decent. I mean, you can see that it's a little bit foggy and a little bit wavy. My body working still has a lot to be desired, but overall it's shiny and it looks better than everything else on the car because it's like actually clear coated properly. So yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna throw this on the car and then I'll give you guys the final shots. All right guys, there we go. There's the final look at the finished panel installed. This is the fully 3D printed one, all painted and done, and I'm super happy with it. It's most definitely not perfect. I mean, you can see that reflection is not exactly the best. That's just me learning body working. That's how it goes. It's a good learning experience, but I mean, it looks great. So I'm happy with that. And yeah, I'm excited to make some more parts, I guess, and see what else I can get into. Hopefully, I'll be able to make a wing for this car eventually to complete my final vision. But yeah, I'm very happy with it. I think it looks great. And everything is in the description if you want to replicate this. Yeah.